Hey guys, tonight we time travel to a breezy shore along the Persian Gulf in the 12th century. An era when the sea whispered secrets and every pearl was a prayer pulled from the deep. You will all be stepping into the life of a humble but respected profession. The pearl diver-esque companion, sand, salt, and sun will keep you company, along with dates, dhow songs, and a slow rhythm of life few today remember. Just try not to invent electricity by accident. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and the local time in the comments. It's always lovely seeing where and when you read drifting in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your eyes flutter open to a warmth that doesn't belong to your bed back home. A wind nudges across your face, dry and salty, like the memory of sun-dried laundry. You are lying in the fine golden sand of a quiet crescent shore. In the distance, the sea stretches out like polished glass, only occasionally ruffled by a wandering breeze. Gulls wheel lazily overhead, crying in long, dipping notes that seem to harmonize with the whisper of the surf. The sand sticks to your skin, but not uncomfortably so. It clings like a welcoming hand. Your clothing, simple linen robes in cream and deep indigo, seems to belong here, though you can't recall putting it on. A small leather pouch is tied around your waist. Inside, a dried fig, a carved wooden bead, and a slip of silk bearing an inked symbol you can't quite read. Someone or something prepared you. You sit up slowly. Behind you lies a low line of homes built from coral stone and palm trunks, their walls daubed with lime wash that catches the sun in soft peach tones. The rooftops are flat, some holding baskets, drying fish, or lazily fluttering cloth. Smoke curls gently from a small cook. A few goats bleat in the distance, clearly unimpressed by your sudden appearance. A boy with dark, curious eyes watches you from a distance. He carries a rope coiled around his shoulder and walks barefoot across the shell-strewn sand like he owns it. He calls out cautiously in Arabic. You understand, somehow. The words settle gently in your mind. You look lost. You've got the look of a poet. You smile because being mistaken for a poet in a pearl diving village feels like a compliment you didn't know you needed. He leads you into the village with an easy stride, and people turn to glance at you, their expressions mostly kind, a few mildly puzzled. A woman in a deep red headscarf peers out from beneath an awning, her hands dusted in flour. You're in good hands, she tells you, motioning to the boy. He belongs to the Al-Faraj family. Divers, every last one. The home you're led to is modest but welcoming. The courtyard is cool, shaded by an overhead netting of woven date palm leaves. A large clay jar of water sits in the corner, and the boy, whose name is Yusuf, hands you a small brass cup. The first sip tastes like the sky after rain, clear, ancient, and a little bit like clay. You are seated on a cushion and offered a dish of dates stuffed with walnuts and dusted with sesame. A man with a face weathered by sun and patience sits cross-legged nearby, tying a thin cord to a stone disc. We dive tomorrow, he says, not looking up. You watch, you learn. You breathe deep and keep your words few. You'll do fine. the night rolls in gently. There are no harsh lines between day and door here, just a slow dimming, as if the world were whispering itself to sleep. You hear a distant reed flute play in a scale that loops like a tide. Someone is cooking fish over charcoal, the scent mingling with cardamom and lemon. Stars emerge one by one, neither rushed nor shy. You settle into a mat under a mosquito net, the village murmuring around you like an old friend humming itself to sleep. Just before your eyes close, you notice a small carved charm hanging from the doorway. A pearl diver carved it from turtle bone, Yusuf explains. It's meant to bring you back from the sea. One can't help but wonder, in a place like this, do they ever come back changed? You nestle deeper into the mat, the sounds of goats settling, cloth flapping, and the endless sea lapping at the edge of the world. You think about your own tiny electric buzz, the blinking screens, the constant churn of information, and wonder what the Al-Faraj family would make of it. Probably shake their heads and hand you a date instead. You wake before the sun, guided by the gentle scratch of date palm fronds in the breeze and the soft stirrings of the household around you. There's no alarmly the quiet urgency of people whose days begin with the tide's dot. Yusuf is already up, wrapping a length of cloth around his waist and securing it with practiced fingers. The courtyard glows faintly with pre-dawn light. You're handed a small brass basin of water, slightly cool to the touch, and a rough cotton cloth for wiping the night from your face. Even water here seems to have memory. It smells faintly mineral and feels alive in the kitchen corner. Yusuf's mother, though everyone simply calls her that, kneels over a clay oven, pressing soft dough into flatbreads. She slips one into the fire with a practiced flick of her wrist. When she catches you watching, she raises a brow and nods to a bowl of date paste. You take the hint and spoon a bit onto one of the warm breads, folding it in half like you've seen Yusuf do. The bread tastes nutty, sweet, and earthy all at once. It's simple, honest food. No preservatives, no plastic wrap, no ingredients you can't pronounce. Just wheat, dates, and the kind of care that only comes from a rhythm repeated over generations. Yusuf offers you a small ceramic cup of tea, infused with cardamom and slivers of dried lemon peel. Good for the lungs, he says, taking a loud, contented slurp. You mimic him, and the warmth seeps through your chest like a kind word. You catch a smile at the edge of Yusuf's mouth. Whether at your manners or your slurping, you're not sure outside. The sky begins to glow with a soft peach hue, and the first call to prayer echoes gently from a small minaret nearby. It doesn't jar, it floats, as if born from the wind, itself the villager's pause. Yusuf bows his head, whispering words in a cadence older than time. You lower your gaze respectfully, and for a quiet moment, the whole village breathes in unison. Later, in the small outer yard, you help the family prepare supplies for the day's dive. Yusuf unrolls a woven palm mat where everything is neatly arranged. Stone weights called dhow, waxed ropes, small wooden clips for nostrils, and thumb protectors carved from leather. He holds one up for you to examine. We don't breathe down there, only dive, grab, and rise. He mimics the motion: pinched nose, hands reaching, legs kicking. 50 seconds, sometimes more. The old ones used to count heartbeats instead of time. You try to lift one of the stone weights. It's heavier than you expect, dense and cold despite the morning warmth. Yusuf nods, tied to the diver's foot, pulls them down fast. No wasting breath paddling. A surprise fact bubbles up during your quiet inspection. Many divers, you learn, cover their ears with cotton soaked in sesame oil. Keeps the sea from stealing your balance, Yusuf says, handing you a small wad. You tuck it behind your ear. Like a flower, unsure if you've passed some test. Yusuf's father arrives, then tall, lean, and quiet, with skin browned from sun and salt. He nods once at you, then turns his attention to the gia. He picks up each item like it's sacred. Maybe it is. You think about all the tools in your world that are used once and thrown away. Here, everything is mended, cherished, remembered. The family begins humming softly, an old call and response song. It rises gently in your chest before you realize you've joined in. The rhythm is circular, meditative. You don't know the words, but the melody carries you as the sun crests over the dunes beyond the village, casting a warm golden light over the coral walls. The courtyard fills with a sense of calm readiness. No rush, just movement, deliberate and true. Before leaving, Yusuf's mother presses a piece of black coal into your hand. For the glare, she says, gesturing to her eyes. You smear a small line beneath each of your own. The desert sun is unforgiving, but the coal is soothing, almost ceremonial. You look into a small bronze mirror propped near the doorway. You barely recognize yourself and it feels strangely good. Just before heading to the dhow, Yusuf tosses you a small woven pouch of dried figs and roasted chickpeas. No diving on an empty belly, he says, winking. You shoulder a net sack and follow him toward the sea, your footsteps muffled by the sand. The air smells of brine and drying seaweed, and the call of a fish hawk slices the wind overhead. Think of home, your old world, where mornings start with traffic, deadlines, phone screens. Here, the only screen is the net you carry, and the only urgency is in rhythm with the tide. You wonder what it would take to bring even a sliver of this peace back with you, or whether when the time comes, you'll even want to return. The dhow bobs in the harbor, its curved wooden hull, aged and salt-worn, but beautiful like a sea creature that's grown wise from listening to waves. Its latent sail is furled tightly, though the morning breeze is beginning to stir. A boy, older than 11, squats on the deck, mending a frayed rope with nimble fingers. He glances up at you, grins wide, and says, "Watch your head." Just as you nearly walk into the low beam of the shade cover, the boat smells of tars, planks, and the faint metallic scent of old sea tools. You run your fingers along the rough edge of the rail. It's sticky with salt, warm from the sun. Yusuf introduces you to the others. Farhan the singer, with a voice like sand on silk. Nabi the pilot, who never blinks when steering. And old Salim the hauler, who claims he once held his breath for 2 minutes straight during a dare. They all accept you easily, the way the sea accepts driftwood, no questions. Just presence. You find a seat near a basket of rope coils. Farhan plucks a few strings on a small oud, tuning it with an ear to the wind. No diving without music, he murmurs. Bad luck makes the sea moody. Nebi stands at the stern and adjusts the rudder with a quiet authority. With a creak and a sigh, the boat slips from the dock. The village slowly recedes behind you, becoming a soft line of palm fronds, white walls, and drying nets. You sail past a rocky outcrop where seabirds roost, past floating seaweed beds and the distant silhouette of another dhow. The waves slap gently against the wood, rhythmic as a cradle song. The air is thick with sea mist and the low hum of Farhan's melody, which rises and falls in a language older than any nation. Yusuf sits beside you and points to the horizon. The beds are out there 10 meters down. We dive until noon, then head home before the sun turns mean. As the dhow cuts farther from shore, The crew begins preparing. The nose clips are passed around, made from tortoiseshell or carved wood, tied with twine. One is gently offered to you, its surface smooth from years of use. You practice placing it across your nostrils, trying not to sneeze. The pearl diving stone, ha'ar, is brought out, tied to a long rope and looped through a foot harness. It looks deceptively simple, but you can tell it's been shaped to precise balance. Too heavy, and the diver sinks too fast. Too light, and it wastes breath. Farhan hands you a shell charm on a cord. For the sea's favor, he says, tapping it to your chest. And maybe to keep jellyfish from getting ideas. Below deck is a clay pot of water mixed with crushed dried limes, a traditional drink called lumi, slightly sour, slightly smoky, and surprisingly refreshing. You sip it slowly, the temps lingering on your tongue. Good for heat, says Salam, wiping his forehead with a strip of cloth. Also scares off sea demons. You're not sure if he's joking, but you take another cautious sip. A philosophical thought drifts in on the salt wind. What is it about diving into the unknown that makes a person feel more awake than ever? You haven't even entered the water yet, and still your body seems to listen differently to the air, to the boat, to your own breath. When the dhow slows to a gentle drift, Nebi drops anchor with a heavy splash. The water below shimmers with promise, turning from turquoise to cobalt. You peer over the edge and glimpse shadows on the seafloor oysters. Perhaps, or just tricks of the current. The divers begin stretching, nothing formal, just intuitive movements honed over time. Yusuf shows you how to roll your shoulders, how to tighten your diaphragm in small pulses to strengthen the breath. We call it fabs, al-nafas, he says, holding the soul, and you practice the breathing ritual they use. Slow inhale, through the nose, a pause, then an even slower exhale, again, until your thoughts drift like seaweed. As the first diver readies to go in, the dhow grows quiet. Farhan hums a deep, steady drone. The diver Salam dips the back of his neck in water, nods once, then clamps the nose clip, secures the hot R rope to his foot, and steps off the side. He disappears like a falling star. You lean over, heart thudding gently. 30 seconds pass, 40, 50. Then he bursts up, gasping, grinning, holding a mesh pouch with 3 oysters. Not bad, says Yusuf. Just wait till we get you in. You laugh nervously. I was thinking I might observe for a few years. He grins. We'll see. The dive continues. One by one, the men disappear, then return, some triumphant, others shrugging with empty pouches. You help haul the lines, pour rinse water over foreheads, and hand out lumi. You are not a diver, not yet, but you are part of the rhythm now. A distant dhow sings a different chant across the waves, and someone whistles an answer. It's a game, a hello, a kind of marine poetry. Only those who live between sky and sea truly understand. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the boat rise and fall. Everything is water, breath, sun, and song. You think of cities and clocks, the hum of fluorescent lights, and wonder if any of them could ever match the quiet elegance of this moment. The time has come. Yusuf ties the stone weight loosely around your foot with a short length of coiled hemp rope. His fingers work with ease, loop, not pull before. He double checks it with a nod. You won't go deep, just enough to greet the sea. You swallow once, twice. The sea winks under the sun, waves brushing against the hull in gentle encouragement. A few paces away, Salim offers a half smile. First dives like first love, he says, shielding his eyes. Clumsy, short, unforgettable. You've watched the others all morning. The rhythm is there in your body now. Breathe, pause, Sink. YUSUF fits the soft tortoise shell clip to your nose. It pinches, but not painfully. You test a few deep breaths through your mouth. The air smells briny, with a faint undertone of smoked wood from the dhow's hull. Remember, he says, look, not grab, just feel. Don't chase the pearl. Farhan hums again his melody now, slow, almost prayerful. A gentle wind rustles the sail above like a mother's breath over a cradle. You lower yourself to sit on the edge, dangling your feet into the sea, warm at first, then cooler below. The rope is coiled beside you, held by Yusuf's steady hand. Whenever you're ready, he murmurs. So you nod. You tip dot, and then the world changes. The weight pulls you down in one smooth glide, past the chatter of waves, past the reach of light chatter, into a silence so complete it sings. The sun becomes refracted ribbons above. Your limbs remember you. Instructions, arms in, legs loose, heart quiet. The sea around you is blue-gray and full of dust motes, teeny flecks that drift like thoughts in no hurry. You level out a few meters beneath the surface, the pressure a gentle throb in your ears. You open your eyes wide, salt stinging a little. Below you, the seabed shimmers with oysters, coral, and drifting seagrass. A small fish striped like an old rug hovers near, eyeing you as though you've arrived at the wrong party. You give a tiny nod, absurdly formal, and it flicks away. No need to grab anything. This is just a greeting. You kick up gently, rope trailing behind, the weight hanging loose. The light above grows stronger as you rise, and your lungs remind you they exist, but not urgently. You break the surface with a small splash, blinking at the sun. YUSUF is already pulling you in with the rope, like reeling in a pearlless oyster. You grip the dhow's side and laugh between gulps of air. Everything tastes of salt and triumph. No pearls, Farhan teases. Just fish judgment, you gasp. They pull you aboard and help you sit on a mat near the bow. Someone hands you lumi in a small ceramic cup. You sip, breathing shallowly, chest rising and falling like a net billowing in the breeze. That's the first dive done, Salim says. Next one, maybe you'll come up with a sea star in your hair. As the others prepare for the next round, you dry your hands on your robe and stare at the open sea. A row of tiny jellyfish drifts by, transparent as dreams, trailing threads like silk. You ask Yusuf how often they find pearls. Maybe 1 in 100 oysters, he replies, sometimes less. The sea gives what it wants. Our job is to listen. Surprising truth, not all pearls are white. Yusuf tells you about rose-colored ones, gray-green ones, even black ones with a violet sheen. The most valued are perfectly round and glisten like tiny moons. But oddly, some families treasure misshapen ones more. They have character, Yusuf says, like a crooked smile. Another diver returns with his pouch, and this time, when they open an oyster, a small pearl rolls out. It's no bigger than a lentil, pale and slightly oblong. Everyone gathers to see, but no one shouts. It's a quiet kind of joy, like finding a forgotten song. They place it in a cloth-lined box, with the others maybe 4 or 5 from the hole. Morning, a modest harvest, but no one seems disappointed. Pearls are slow, Salim says, and stubborn. You think of all the things in your world that claim to be fast and easy, glittering and immediate. But this small village, this boat, this pearl, they are built on patience, silence, breath, and you. You begin to wonder what else you might learn, just by being still. The diving continues. You don't go again, but you help pull the lines, keep time for Yusuf's dives, and refill the water cups. With each return, he grins broader, his pouch heavier. Once, He surfaces holding an oyster in one hand and a pale sea star in the other. For you, he says, tossing it gently into your lap. It twitches once, alive and ancient, before you release it back over the side. The sun climbs higher, and the waves start whispering of midday. The wind stiffens. Farhan sets the sail, Nabi lifts the anchor, and the dhow turns back toward land. You sit on the edge, legs swinging, the sea still cool on your skin. Your muscles ache in places you didn't know you had, but it's the good kind of ache. Kind that says, today, you belonged. As the village comes into view again. You watch the palm fronds waving in the heat shimmer, and you feel something settle in you. Not a pearl perhaps, but something just as rare. The dhow glides into the shallows, the hull brushing against soft sand with a sigh, as though the boat itself is grateful to return. The sun now hangs at its peak, casting golden heat that blurs the outlines of palm trunks and mud brick walls. You shade your eyes with one hand and watch the men leap into the surf with casual ease, guiding the boat ashore with practiced nudges and tugs of the sail rope. Your legs are still unsure beneath. As you step into the warm water, it laps against your calves like an old friend, gently, insistently, reminding you that land is solid, but not to be taken for granted. Yusuf hands you a net sack filled with oyster shells and nods toward the sorting mats laid out beyond the beach. You follow him inland, where the village stretches lazily along the coastline. Homes are quiet during this hour. The heat's lull has drawn many inside for rest or prayer. In the distance, a donkey snorts half-heartedly, swishing its tail at flies, while a toddler sits in the shade of a fig tree, humming to a bird made from coiled reeds. The sorting area is simple but efficient. Woven mats laid out in the open, shaded partially by stretched linen. You kneel beside Yusuf as he spills out the oyster shells, their rough edges dull and sea-worn. Salam joins, holding a small knife with the bone handle. The trick, he says, is not to rush. Pearls don't like to be chased. You begin prying them open gently, almost apologetically. Most reveal only soft flesh and the pungent scent of salt and brine. A few contain a tiny crusted pebble of nacre, not quite a pearl, but not nothing either. And then Yusuf gasps softly. He turns an oyster to show you. Nestled inside, shimmering faintly in the dappled sun, is a pinkish pearl slightly off-round, but flawless in its luster. She's a beauty, he murmurs. This one, she might be for a bride's dowry. You look up, curious. They use pearls for weddings. Of course, Salam chuckles. Pearls for brides, coral for infants, amber for promises you mean to keep. He doesn't elaborate, and you don't press him. The poetry of it hangs in the warm air, like the scent of drying fish. After sorting, the shells are tossed into a designated pit to dry. Some will be ground into lime for mortar or used in making ink. Waste is rare. Here everything has its second purpose. Yusuf appears with a jug of sour tamarind drink, its clay exterior dripping with condensation. You gratefully accept a ceramic cup, sipping the tangy liquid slowly as you sit back on your heels. Your hands smell of oyster and lime. Your arms ache from diving and hauling, but your spirit is calm, and usually so. It strikes you how labor here isn't isolated from life. No sterile office cubicles, no traffic snarls or email pings. Everything is interwoven. Family, labor, rest, worship. See, work is slower here. You say aloud more to yourself than anyone. Yusuf tilts his head. Slower. You pause. I mean, it's steady, purposeful, not rushed. He grins, flicking a bit of oyster meat to a scrappy cat prowling nearby. The sea sets the pace. You don't argue with tides. An unusual fact surfaces in conversation as you rest. Some divers, especially the most experienced, coat their hands with a special sap from the cider tree before diving. It forms a thin barrier that prevents skin from shriveling too quickly in salt water and helps prevent infection from small coral cuts. Yusuf's uncle, who once dove for pearls near Hormuz, used to smear it on his face too, claiming it made him invisible to sharks. I think it mostly just made him smell weird, Yusuf jokes, wiping his hands on his robe. Later, you help carry the modest pearl harvest to a small stone storeroom. It's cool and dark inside, lined with wooden shelves and padded boxes filled with cotton and fabric scraps. Each pearl is placed in its compartment with reverence. One box is sealed with a knotted cord. Those are reserved for trade in Basra, Yusuf whispers. The merchant arrives by dhow once every 2 moons, brings spices, fabrics, coins. You linger near the doorway, letting your eyes adjust to the shadowed quiet. It smells of wood, salt, and faint sandalwood smoke. You wonder how many hands each pearl will pass through, how many eyes will marvel at it without ever knowing this place. Outside, the breeze carries the sound of waves, far and gentle. You begin to feel the pull of the day's end, not just in your limbs, but somewhere deeper. The kind of fatigue that comes not from stress, but from participation, from living inside the rhythm of a place. You return to the house just before dusk, where Yusuf is kneading dough for the evening meal. She doesn't look up, but her head tilts in quiet acknowledgement. Your back will ache tonight, she says. That means you've earned your supper. You wash your hands from a clay jug, pour cool water over your wrists, and look out across the low rooftops. The sky has turned to copper, the air heavy with the scent of bread and roasted lentils. A boy runs past chasing a chicken. Someone is singing a slow tune in a courtyard. You wonder again what they would think of your old world, its schedules and screens, its need to always be productive. Then you think maybe that world could use a little oyster sorting. The air turns lavender as dusk spreads across the village, softening every corner and curve. Shadows stretch like lazy cats along the sand-packed paths. The heat, once pressing, now slips away gently, replaced by a cool breeze off the sea. Waves you over as he fastens a small cloth satchel around his waist. Come, he says, already heading toward the beach again. You've met the sea by day, now made it by moon. You follow him barefoot through the dusky alleys, where lanterns begin to flicker to life behind lattice windows. Their pierced brass casings throw intricate shadows on coral stone walls. You pass neighbors lounging on rooftop cushions, sipping tamarind juice and murmuring in low voices, some chuckling, others simply still. The dhow has been anchored for the night, its sail furled tightly like a dream, folded away for safekeeping. But another smaller boat, bare, low, and narrow, is tied to a post near the shore. Yusuf steps into it and gestures for you to follow. No sail, no oars, just a soft push from his foot, and the tide does the rest. You drift quietly across the shallows, the village behind you, now a faint constellation of flickering lamps and voices. Overhead, the sky is littered with stars, more than you've ever seen in your life. They shine with the clarity that makes you feel both tiny and somehow deeply seen. The moon rises like a pearl itself, full and luminous, trailing a silver path. Across the sea's surface, Yusuf doesn't speak. He simply reaches into his satchel and pulls out a small, smooth stone. He places it in your palm. Hold it while you dive, he says quietly. Let the weight do the work. Trust the stillness. You nod. There is no ceremony, no chant, only the hush of waves and the gentle creak of wood. You slip into the sea with a quiet splash, the coolness folding over you like a blanket. This time, Without the chaos of sun and crew and shouts, the water is utterly serene. Even the fish seem slower. You sink a few feet, the moonlight reaching into the depths like curious fingers. Around you, the sea blooms with bioluminescence, tiny flickers of green-blue light trailing from your hands, your feet. You're surrounded by stars both above and below. You don't dive deep, just enough to be inside it. Cradled. It's a strange kind of peace, being suspended in water with no sound but your own heartbeat. You open your eyes and see small jellyfish drifting like lace. They pulse softly, uncaring of the world above. When you resurface, Yusuf is waiting silently in the boat. You climb in, shivering slightly, and he hands you a cloth. "Now you've really met the sea," he says, and you can hear the smile in his voice. He begins rowing slowly, lazily, just enough to turn the boat back toward land. They say, "The moon pulls more than tides," he muses. "Pulls memories too, and feelings we don't want to name." You lean back and watch the sky. The stars seem to hum now, like old friends whispering secrets. You think of home, of blue light screens, of busy streets where no one looks up. You wonder what it would feel like to bring someone from this world into yours. Would they weep for the noise, or just laugh at your need for timers and apps? Back on shore, you and Yusuf walk in comfortable silence. A nearby courtyard bursts into brief laughter. Someone tells a joke about a merchant who mistook goat butter for perfume. You don't catch the whole thing, but the joy is contagious. Inside the Alfaraj home, a soft meal awaits. Roasted eggplant mashed with tahini, barley soup with lemon, and small flatbreads brushed with olive oil and za'atar. You eat quietly, comfortably, listening to the small sounds of a family winding down, cutlery clinking. Soft conversation, someone humming an old lullaby. After dinner, Yusuf's younger sister, Amina, hands you a piece of cloth and a bone needle. She's sewing new covers for the family's prayer cushions. You're not much good at each. Her stitches look like they're trying to escape, but she only giggles and shows you again. Across the room, Yusuf's father lights a small oil lamp and places it by the doorway, so the sea spirits know we're home, he says with a wink. You're not sure if he means it literally, and it doesn't really matter. Here, belief isn't debated, it's simply part of the evening air. Like spice and salt. When it's time to sleep, you lie once again on your woven mat beneath the netting, the scent of lemon and sea still clinging faintly to your skin. A breeze pushes gently through the courtyard, making the date palm fronds whisper above your head. You close your eyes, letting the rhythm of waves, real or imagined, rock you slowly away, and somewhere between wake and dream, you feel it again, that tiny shift inside you, like something settling into place, a pearl forming, not from irritation, but from quiet, from wonder. The next morning, you rise with the gentle rustle of palm leaves and the first light sneaking over the village rooftops. The air is cooler than yesterday, the breeze already awake before the sun. Birds are arguing politely in a fig tree outside. The courtyard, their chirps short and staccato like gossip before the day begins. You sit up slowly on your mat, stretching limbs that ache in places you forgot existed. The muscles along your ribs remind you of the dive, of the resistance of water, the pressure, and that strange, peaceful hush below the surface. You smile to yourself. You're becoming part of the rhythm here, a little more each day. A pot of barley porridge simmers over coals in the kitchen. Yusuf stirs it with slow, deliberate motions. She hands you a bowl with a half slice of preserved lemon resting on top. It's both bright and earthy, the kind of flavor that wakes your mouth but still feels gentle. Yusuf joins you on the step, his hair sticking up like reeds caught in a current. You dive like a turtle, he says, yawning. But you come up with all your fingers. So, not bad. You tip your head solemnly. I was hoping for jellyfish envy, he snorts. That takes time. After breakfast, there's no rush to return to the sea. Today is a rest day, marked by the moon's cycle and the wind's stubbornness. The breeze is too unpredictable, and the older divers claim the oysters close tighter when the current is fussy. So instead, the day begins slowly, a welcome contrast to the physical demands of diving. You follow Yusuf around the village on quiet errands. He shows you how to mend a frayed net using palm twine and a curved bone needle. The pattern is repetitive, hypnotic, loop, knot, pull, like breathing. As you work, he explains how the nets are used mostly for trapping fish near the shallows. Pearl divers use their hands, not nets. The oysters trust hands more than traps, he says, as though this is an obvious fact of life. You notice something odd as you work. The twine has been scented with dried herb steam and a hint of something sharp, almost minty. You ask why. To keep the ants away, Yusuf replies, and to keep your thoughts awake. You pause. Does it work? He shrugs. Depends on the ants. Later, you accompany Yusuf and his younger cousin Layla to the goat enclosure just outside the village edge. The goats are scruffy, clever creatures, clearly unimpressed by your attempts at friendliness. One of them, white with a black face, chews your robe casually while Layla howls with laughter. You help gather date fronds for feed, tying them into bundles with strips of cloth. In the background, the sea murmurs constantly, like a story told in slow syllables. Layla teaches you a lullaby in Arabic, one her grandmother used to sing to calm the goats at night. You learn the words clumsily, but she's patient. The melody is sweet and old and a little sad. It speaks of the moon watching over sleeping fields, of seafoam blankets, of stars whispering dreams to the tired. A philosophical thought slips into your mind, gentle and uninvited. How many lullabies have vanished from your world, faded in the static of modern noise, lost beneath earbuds and bus schedules? You wonder what would happen if you sang this one on the subway back home. Probably silence, probably stares, or maybe, just maybe, a sleepy smile. By midday, the sun climbs higher, and you retreat to the shaded courtyard. Yusuf is sorting lentils while murmuring lines from a poem under her breath. She pauses, gestures for you to sit, and hands you a small bowl. Together you sift out the pebbles and husks in companionable silence. She breaks at once to ask, "What did your mother teach you to cook?" You blink. The question feels like it traveled centuries to reach you. "Scrambled eggs," you reply, and immediately feel underqualified. She laughs, one of those warm, belly-deep sounds that you feel in your toes. "Then tonight, you make eggs. I'll make the rest." When the afternoon wanes, you head to the market street, a short walk from the outer edge of the village. It's not bustling today. Only a few stalls are open, but there's a slow, pleasant energy in the air. Dates strung in long, sticky garlands hang from wooden frames. Ceramic jugs with painted rims glint in the sun. A spice seller lets you smell a handful of crushed dried lime, and a blend of rose and cinnamon meant for stewing with lentils. You trade a helping hand, unloading a basket of fish for a small, sweet fig. The stall owner nods in approval and points at your feet. You walk like you've lived here forever. You think maybe your soles are finally forgetting shoes. As the sun lowers once more, painting the sand in long amber lines, you return home with Yusuf, your shared prize, a single egg, a pinch of saffron, and a wild cucumber the size of your thumb. Dinner is simple. You scramble the egg awkwardly but proudly over a clay stove while Yusuf plates lentils with garlic and mint. The family eats together on the floor, sitting on cushions, passing flatbread by hand. No forks, no phones, no interruptions. You feel full in every sense that night. As you lie again beneath your mosquito net, you listen to the soft creak of the rafters, the occasional splash from a fish leaping in the harbor, and Yusuf gently snoring a few paces away. You've done no diving today, no grand adventure, just lived, and somehow that feels like everything. The next morning arrives on the breath of the tide, gentle and humid, carrying with it the smell of salt and possibility. Birds chirp along the rooftops, and a rooster announces the day, a bit too proudly. You shift beneath your mosquito net and sit up slowly, your body already expecting motion, your muscles humming quietly with anticipation. It's a diving day again. Yusuf is outside, braiding his hair into a short knot to keep it out of his face. He waves you over with a bite of flatbread still in his mouth. Quick, he says, between chews. The oysters are already gossiping about you. You laugh and grab your sash, nodding it with growing confidence. There's something satisfying about the ritual of it. The day begins not with a jolt, but a process. Tea brewed over coals, dates softened overnight. A few stretches in the courtyard while listening to the palm trees rustle. You walk to the shore with the team. This time, you recognize nearly every diver by name and they greet you like one of their own, with nods and quiet hand claps. The dhow gleams in the morning light, dappled with sea mist. Rope neatly coiled along its deck. As the crew loads gear, you're handed a new task. Keeper of the pouch. It's a soft leather bag with 3 compartments, each lined in cloth and lightly perfumed with clove and rose oil to mask the ocean's cling. Sort as we go, says Farhan. Small, large, and strange. Strange, you ask, misshapen, oddly colored, or cursed, he adds with a wink. You're not sure if he's kidding, but you take the bag reverently. This dive feels different. The dhow pushes off from shore, gliding over the water like a creature who knows its home. The chant begins almost immediately, low, rhythmic. Not quite a melody, but something older. Salim taps his fingers against a wooden bucket in time. You sit near the front bag across your chest, watching the horizon unfold. The sea is calm, save for a long line of dark cloud far off to the west. Yusuf notes it with a glance but says nothing. We'll be back before she turns, he murmurs, stood at the oyster beds. The routine begins. Weights tied, noses clipped, divers breathing deep. You help steady the lines and hand out cups of lumi water. One by one, the men dive, disappear, return. Pouches fill slowly. The sun climbs. Then, as Yusuf surfaces from his 3rd dive, he calls you over. Come, he says. Bring the bag. Time you learn to sort. You sit with him on the deck, his pouch laid open. One by one you examine the pearls. A milky white, one, almost translucent, small pile. A soft gray blue, shaped like a raindrop, strange pile. One with a tiny nick on the side, undecided. Why Yusuf watches you work. Not every pearl is perfect, he says, but even the odd ones have homes. Some become rings. Others are ground to powder and mixed into ointments. A few are kept for memory. You turn over the gray blue one in your hand. It catches the light differently, flashing with hints of lavender and smoke. What about this? He smiles. That one's yours. You blink, but I didn't find it. You're here, you're part of the boat. That's enough. You place it carefully in your sash pouch, feeling oddly honored. The first gift from the sea. An hour later, the sorting continues. Farhan hauls up a net filled with oysters from a shallower cluster and begins opening them. His method is quicker practical. He hums while he works, flicking empty shells overboard. With ease, then, he pauses, holding one open. The pearl inside is larger than any you've seen yet. Not round, but oblong, almost teardrop-shaped. Pale gold with a ripple of rose near one edge. He whistles low. A merchant's dream, he murmurs. You all gather around, leaning in. Yusuf's father examines it and nods. Wrap it carefully. No stories about this one until it's safe. Farhan places it in a box, wrapped with lamb's wool, and ties it, closed with blue string. Some things, he says quietly, should rest before they're named. The wind picks up slightly then, cool and steady. The cloud bank to the west has drawn a little closer, its edge curling like smoke. Yusuf narrows his eyes. Let's turn back. The anchor is drawn, sails loosened, and the dhow turns homeward. The sea changes, subtly. The color deepens, shifting from sapphire to ink. You grip the rail and listen to the creak of wood and the murmur of silicals. As the dhow glides, Yusuf tells you an old belief, that pearls are the sea's way of capturing forgotten prayers, the ones whispered in sorrow or joy, he says. They settle in oysters and grow round, layer by layer, until someone brave enough dives for them. You imagine the prayers you've left behind, the things unsaid, the quiet wishes. Maybe some are buried in the deep, waiting. The village appears again, soft and familiar. The dhow slides into the shallows, guided by the rhythm of practiced hands. Once ashore, you help unload the day's harvest. The golden pearl is handed to Yusuf's father, who carries it inside with all the gravity of a sacred object. You feel your pearl shift in your sash pouch. Light, quiet, undemanding. That night, after dinner, you sit beneath the stars, turning it slowly in your fingers. It's small, imperfect, and somehow utterly yours. You think, not for the first time, that this village has given you more than memories. It's given you slowness, presence, the kind of silence that stays with you even in noise. Maybe you muse. The sea doesn't just give back pearls. Maybe it gives back pieces of yourself you didn't know had drifted away. The evening market welcomes you like an old friend who speaks softly and always smells of spices. It's just after sunset, and the sand-packed street is aglow with the warm flicker of lanterns-pierced brass globes hanging from doorways, gently swinging in the sea breeze. Each one scatters patterns of light like a galaxy onto the walls and ground below. Yusuf walks beside you, a cotton sash draped over one shoulder, his feet bare and silent on the warm earth. Tonight's light market, he explains, for lanterns, oils, maybe music. You turn a corner and are greeted by a narrow lane lined with merchant stalls. A woman adjusts a row of dyed linen scarves. A boy turns a spit over a fire, slow roasting fish rubbed with sumac and coriander. The scent is dizzying smoke, salt, and citrus all at once. You pass a stall selling seashell beads, another with pots of herbal pastes and oils labeled in curling Arabic script. A man with a long honey-colored beard calls out, "Traveler, want your name written in pearl ink?" He holds up a strip of parchment marked with shimmering calligraphy. You decline with a smile, though part of you wonders how your name would look in that graceful script curved like waves. Yusuf tugs your arm and leads you toward the lanterns. They're displayed like offerings on wooden crates, domes of brass and copper, pierced with tiny holes and swirling patterned stars. Leaves, waves, some are tall and narrow, others squat and round. Each one throws a different constellation onto the walls around it. A breeze stirs them gently, casting slow-moving shadows across your face. You crouch to examine a lantern shaped like a pomegranate. Yusuf nudges you. Press the stem. You do, and the top opens on a hinge to reveal a wick swimming in fragrant oil. Orange blossom, says the vendor, and a little myrrh keeps the air sweet. An older woman approaches, her face lined like the bark of an old olive tree. She taps your shoulder and points to your pearl still tucked in your sash pouch, visible only by its slight bulge. That one, she says in a sandpapery voice, is a lucky shape. Crescent moon pearls are signs of new beginnings. Yusuf raises a brow, surprised. She rarely speaks. You thank her, bowing slightly, and she just nods, disappearing back. Into the lantern-lit crowd, further down, you reach a spice seller's stall, where pyramids of saffron, turmeric, cardamom, and dried rose petals are stacked like tiny mountains. The colors are bold, even in lantern-light sunset yellows, wine reds, deep earth browns. The seller offers you a pinch of bark blend in your palm. You taste it cautiously. Warm, peppery, slightly sweet. Your tongue tingles, makes lentils. Remember, they once had dreams. He jokes out next to him. A boy plays a ney, a reed flute with a sound so soft it feels like the music is being poured into your ears rather than played aloud. A few villagers sit nearby, eyes half closed, swaying gently to the tune. You and Yusuf find a spot to sit on a low wall, watching the market swirl around you. He offers you a piece of sesame candy wrapped in date leaf. It's sticky and rich. With a hint of anise, you ask him if the market always feels like this, like a dream. You can walk through. Only when the sea is calm, he says. People feel safer to trade, to laugh. A stormed sea makes for quiet streets. A surprising fact drifts into conversation. Yusuf explains that pearl divers sometimes sell not just the pearls, but the mother-of-pearl shells too, which are ground and used to coat ink, make buttons, or even fashion tiny decorative tiles for mosques and jewelry boxes. The shell's memory is longer than ours, he adds. You take a moment to breathe that in. Everything here is used, valued, remembered. Nothing is tossed carelessly. You wonder what a pearl would think, having been plucked from a seafloor, to end up sewn into a bride's veil, or crushed into dust to illuminate someone's poem. You buy a small lantern, one shaped like a fish, from a boy whose father carves them by hand. You imagine lighting it back home. Would it still throw stars on your ceiling? Would your walls even know what to do with a shadow that came from here? As the market winds down, vendors douse their lamps and gently fold their wares. The music fades. The smell of roasted spices gives way to cool air tinged with smoke and brine. You and Yusuf walk home slowly, feet dusty, bellies full, hearts even fuller. In the courtyard, Yusuf waits with a kettle of chamomile and honey tea. The family gathers around a low table, lit by one of their oldest lanterns, a tall copper, one dented at the base and glowing like memory. You sip your tea, listening to the quiet clink of cups, the soft whisper of wind through date palms, and Yusuf's voice telling a story about a diver who once found a pearl the size of an apricot, gave it away for a song. Tonight, your breath slows easily. You curl beneath your net and watch your fish lantern glow gently nearby. You've carried no treasure, made no fortune, but this night, this soft golden evening, in a world lit by oil and kindness, feels like a pearl. Steam curls up in slow, sleepy spirals, scenting the air with citrus peel, rosewater, and clove. You exhale into it, eyes half-lidded, while warm stone presses beneath you and soft voices echo like distant waves. You are in the hammam, the village. Bathhouse is nestled near the edge of the central square. its walls sun-bleached and plain outside, but step through the carved wooden door, and you're in a world of tile, water, and hush. Light filters through star-shaped holes in the domed ceiling, dancing like stardust on steam. Why USUF had grinned when he invited you. You survived the market and 3 dives. You've earned a wash worthy of legends. He wasn't wrong. After days of sun, salt, and sand, your limbs ache in places you didn't know had opinions. So here you are, wrapped in a thin cotton towel, perched on a low bench of warm stone, surrounded by a quiet symphony of trickling water, soft whispers, and the occasional splash. The hammam is divided by gender tonight. It's the men's turn. But there's no posturing here, no urgency, just peace. An older man to your left scrubs his arms with a paste made from olive oil and crushed laurel leaves, humming tunelessly. A boy nearby uses a long-handled ladle to pour warm water over his father's back. It's not a task, it's a gesture of care, a soft chuckle beside you. It's Yusuf, eyes closed, towel draped over his shoulders. Feels like the sea turned inside out, he says. No waves, no diving, just warmth. A young attendant hands you a small bowl of ground cider leaves. Mixed with warm water, it forms a gentle green lather used for washing both hair and skin. The scent is herbal, grounding. You rub it between your palms, then work it slowly through your hair, letting the lather drip to the warm floor. The tile here is smooth and patterned with tiny fish, each one hand-painted decades ago. Some are faded, others still wide-eyed. You're led to a warmer chamber, a domed room, where steam is thick and dense, and the walls gleam with condensation. A man in his 60s, with arms like braided rope, offers to scrub your back with a say, a textured cloth mitt. You agree, and he gets to work with surprising vigor, humming under his breath. Sand, salt, and time peel away in layers. You feel oddly grateful both for the bath and the scrubbing. It's not just cleansing, it's ritual, a soft shedding of the days you've spent on this foreign shore. As the session ends, you're handed a thin linen robe and led to the cool room, a quieter, darker space where a breeze flows from small vents and a few lanterns flicker against plaster walls. You sip sweet mint tea from a small clay cup and nibble a sliver of candied orange peel. It's sharp, sweet, and citrusy, like a punctuation mark to a long sentence of steam. YUSUF lies nearby, eyes closed. This, he whispers, is why we don't mind the sea's demands, because once in a while, it lets us rest. You smile. You could almost forget the dive rope burns on your palms. A surprising detail floats into conversation as you lounge. One of the elders mentions that some divers bathe not just for cleanliness, but for preparation. The body carries energy, he says. Salt water gives, but steam centers. You want a pearl? Start with a clean spirit. You don't know if you believe it, but you also don't not believe it. Outside, the air feels cooler than before. Your skin is warm and loose. Your lungs feel 3 sizes larger, and your thoughts drift like boats on a windless sea. Back at the Al Faraj home, Yusuf greets you with a linen cloth to wrap your still damp hair. She sniffs the air and nods. Laurel leaf and honesty, she says. Very clean. Dinner is light tonight. Lentil broth with bits of fried onion, a little goat cheese rolled in thyme, and slices of roasted eggplant drizzled with pomegranate. Molasses. Your appetite isn't roaring, just steady, content. Afterward, you sit on the low wall outside the courtyard with Yusuf. The sky is velvet black now, pricked with stars. A small oil lamp burns between you, its flame swaying gently. With the breeze, you know, he says. My uncle once fell asleep in the hammam. They found him dreaming of pearls in the clay room. What happened, you ask? He shrugs. He woke up, swore he had the perfect one in his palm. But when he opened his hand, it was just a drop of water. You both chuckle quietly. You begin to notice the rhythm of life here isn't built around events, it's built around sensations, steam and salt, scent and silence, the taste of lemon peel, the weight of a wet robe, the feeling of being held, however briefly, by warm stone and stillness. And there's something deeply philosophical in that, a life measured not by what you accumulate, but how you are tended to, how you tend to others. Tonight, your sleep is deep and dreamless. Your muscles sigh into the mat, your chest rises and falls in tune with the sea, and the scent of laurel lingers faintly in your hair. You've been scrubbed down to your simplest self, and you are enough. Sometime deep in the night, you wake not with a start, but like a leaf turning over in still water. The courtyard around you is quiet, the oil lamp long since gone out, leaving only shadows cast by starlight through the woven palm roof. Air is cool, almost chilly, and the breeze carries the faintest trace of frankincense from a nearby doorway. You lie still, half cocooned in your blanket, listening. The sounds are layered, gently goats shifting in their pen, the soft tick of wood settling in the roof beams, and beyond that, the slow, eternal rhythm of the sea. It reaches into the village like a lullaby from another room. You let your breath fall in sync with it, and then, as if carried by the tide, your thoughts drift to the world you left behind. You picture your room, lit by harsh blue light. You remember your alarm clock blinking 3 a.m. in red digits, the buzz of traffic outside your window, the sigh of the air conditioner that hummed but never cooled quite right. That world feels impossibly far now. Here, no clocks tick, no screens glow. The night is thick, ancient, and quiet. You feel yourself as something small inside, something vast, and, instead of fear, there's only stillness, like you've been folded gently into a story that began long before you arrived. You shift onto your side, arm tucked beneath your head, and gaze through a gap in the roof. The stars are visible in sharp detail, Orion low on the horizon, the curve of the Milky Way like spilled flour across the sky. You wonder what these stars were called here, what names they were given, what stories they told children to explain their flickering lights. Just then, Yusuf stirs nearby. Still awake, he murmurs. You hum in reply. He turns over. Dreamt I was underwater, couldn't breathe. Then I realized I didn't need to. A pause. Strangest peace. You smile into the dark. Maybe it wasn't a dream. He chuckles. Maybe not. Neither of you speaks again. The silence returns, not empty, but full. In the morning, you wake slowly to the rustle of chickens and the smell of simmering lentils. Yusuf is already up, crouched over a scroll of parchment. He's sketching something, a diving belt design. By the look of it, you raise an eyebrow. It came to me in the dream, he says. Maybe the sea whispered it. You lean over his shoulder and study the sketch. The belt is divided, the weight more evenly distributed. Not just functional, elegant. You help with chores that morning. No diving today. The tides are too strong, the wind uncertain. Instead, you and Yusuf gather driftwood along the beach. It's smooth and sun-bleached, shaped by time into soft curves and edges. Some of it will be used for repairs, some carved into charms, and some, he explains, burned to ward off illness during the cooler months. A quiet task, but not without reward. As you pick your way among the rocks and seaweed, you find a tiny conch shell, no bigger than a coin. It whistles faintly. When you blow through it, you pocket it like a secret. you meet others too. A woman weaving baskets from palm fronds tells you how each pattern has meaning, some for water, some for family, some to protect against loss. She offers you a small one, its base shaped like a flower. To carry small things, she says, but not sadness. An older man shows you how to grind dried lemon peel and mix it with vinegar to clean copper. You watch as a tarnished lamp becomes golden again, catching the sun in its curves. You think there is value in simple restorations. That evening, as the sun lowers into the sea in one slow molten pour, you return to the rooftop and sit cross-legged, watching the sky. Yusuf joins you with 2 cups of tamarind juice, chilled in an earthen pot. He offers you one and leans back, sighing. I wonder what the world will look like in 500 years, he says suddenly. You hesitate, louder. You admit, and maybe lonelier. He frowns. That's a sad guess. Not always, you say, but I think people forget how to sit still. He nods slowly. Stillness is a skill, a philosophical breeze, that thought you drink in silence, the sweetness of the tamarind mixing with the salt of the air. Somewhere below, the goats bleat, a baby cries once, and a woman sings a lullaby that sounds like waves. As the stars emerge, once again, you hold your pearl in your palm, not to weigh it, not to judge it, just to feel it, smooth, slightly warm from your skin, shaped by time and discomfort into something that gleams. You close your eyes and listen. Today, the sea is restless. Its waves slap the shore with a moody rhythm, like someone mumbling in their sleep. The wind has changed direction, pushing palm fronds against their own grain, and the air tastes different, sharper, dustier. A few villagers glance upward toward the hazy sky, their expressions more thoughtful than fearful. No panic here, just understanding. The sea has moods, and today it is brooding. There will be no diving. Instead, Yusuf's father announces it's a day for repairs and blessings. You don't wrestle a turning tide, he says over breakfast, dipping bread into olive oil laced with sumac. You mend your nets, sing to your goats, thank your luck. You take the advice to heart. Your first task is simple, mending the edge of a palm fiber mat used on the dhow deck. The fibers are tough and dry, but when softened with a splash of hot water and kneaded like dough, they become pliable again, almost silk-like. Yusuf shows you how to rebraid the border. Even mats like to feel whole, she says, and you wonder if the same could be said of people. While you work, the courtyard bustles with its own soft energy. Amina recites poetry under her breath as she threads tiny white shells onto a string. Layla brushes the goats and sings the same lullaby she taught you earlier. The goats look amused, or perhaps slightly flattered. Your content here part of the motion, but not rushed. The sun plays peekaboo with drifting clouds, casting golden pools of light that slide across the whitewashed walls like lazy fish. Later in the morning, Yusuf returns with a wooden bowl of cooked lentils and slices of cucumber. You eat under the fig tree, listening to the wind whistle softly through its leaves. The figs are not ripe yet, but the tree hums with quiet life. Afterward, you join a few of the younger villagers in patching fishing nets. The netting is stretched across wooden frames like great spider webs, each hole a whisper of yesterday's work. The thread is coated with a thin layer of fish oil and crushed charcoal. It smells stronger than you'd like, but serves to preserve the fibers against rot. As you thread and knot, one of the women, a cheerful, round-faced girl named Semira, tells you about an old village superstition. If a net is mended in silence, it catches truth, but if you talk too much while fixing it, it only catches trouble. You nod solemnly, then grin. What if I only whisper lies? She laughs so hard she drops her needle. A soft storm builds across the afternoon sky. Not rain, not yet, just a swelling of clouds that darken the air and make the village feel cozier somehow. The goats are gathered under the eaves. Children are called indoors. Lanterns are lit earlier than usual, their golden flickers standing out against the graying world dot inside the house. Yusuf prepares a kind of soup she calls shorbat ados, red lentils, lemon, and cumin, thickened with a handful of crushed rice. The smell is pure comfort, like memory and safety boiled into a bowl. She serves it with warm flatbread sprinkled with sesame. As you eat, Yusuf pulls out a reed flute, a gift from his grandfather. He plays softly, haltingly, trying to remember a tune that drifts in and out of memory. You hum along, inventing your own harmony. The room seems to exhale around you, and there, nestled in the quiet, is another surprising fact. Villagers sometimes tell stories of Nafrin, benevolent sea spirits, said to live in the oyster beds. Unlike jinn, they don't grant wishes or meddle. They only sing to the oysters, coaxing them to grow pearls in beautiful shapes. Some say, Yusuf adds, eyes glinting, that if you dive on a certain tide and listen just right, you'll hear them singing to you. Have you ever heard it? You ask. He shrugs. I thought I did once, but maybe it was just Farhan humming. You both laugh quietly, letting the moment linger. By nightfall, the storm has passed without drama. Just a shake of the sky, a few growls of wind, a handful of drizzled sand. The air feels rinsed clean. Even the goats seem relieved. Before sleep, you step out into the courtyard alone. The sky is clearing again, stars peeking cautiously through retreating clouds. A patch of moonlight settles over the date tree, illuminating the woven basket you've been helping with. You reach into your pouch and hold up your pearl. Still here, still yours. Its luster looks different now, less like a trophy, more like a small echo, a keepsake of days spent slowly, of moments noticed. You lean against the cool stone wall and wonder, not for the first time, what this world would make of yours. What would they think of online grocery delivery, or LED lamps, or the noise of 1,000 strangers all talking at once? Would they be impressed, or would they miss the hush between sentences? The joy of lighting one lamp with another. You return to your mat and nestle beneath your light blanket. Your shoulders sink, your hands go still. Outside, the sea has quieted again, and inside you, something does the same. At first, it sounds like a drum, a slow, low thrum carried across the dunes by early morning wind. You stir on your mat, blinking up at the pale ceiling, unsure if it was dream or weather. Then it comes a gunner roll, distant but deliberate, like a heartbeat echoed in stone. Yusuf is already awake. He leans in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes trained toward the horizon. Storm at sea, you ask, voice scratchy with sleep. He shakes his head. Festival, you blink. Festival, for the sea, he says, as if that explains everything. Yusuf is already gathering bundles of herbs and carefully folded fabrics. In the courtyard, Amina strings fresh jasmine blossoms into garlands, her fingers quick and graceful. The air smells of citrus and something sharp, perhaps vinegar, steeped in rose petals. It's not every month, Yusuf explains, while chewing a sliver of candied ginger. Only when the season shifts. We give thanks for the sea's mercy. Ask her to stay calm. You help carry things to the edge of the village where the sand gives way to rock and sea. You expect something grand, perhaps a procession, but it's smaller than that. Simpler, intimate. On a raised platform near the shoreline, a few women arrange clay bowls filled with seawater, flower petals, and tiny offerings, bits of polished shell, sprigs of thyme, a few perfect white pebbles. One child drops in a single almond and is praised like a queen. The whole village gathers in a slow swirl. Children run circles around a circle of smooth stones. Men in loose robes carry lanterns not lit, just ready, like promises. Farhan begins to sing, not loud, but steady. It's not a melody for dancing, it's for remembering. His voice winds around itself, looping like waves returning to shore. You feel something tug in your chest. Each person steps forward, one by one, and touches the seawater bowl. Some whisper, some close their eyes. A few shed quiet tears. When it's your turn, you kneel and touch the water. It's warm from the sun, scented faintly by jasmine. You think of everything the sea has given you here. Silence, wonder, rhythm, depth, and something you can't quite name, something curled in the shape of a pearl. You whisper a thank you, not just to the sea, but to whatever power tucked you into this world. Then, the ritual breaks into something lighter. Children toss flower petals into the tide. Older women begin humming an old lullaby that shifts into a gentle circular dance. No steps to memorize, just swaying, like seaweed following the current. You're pulled into it by Amina and Yusuf at once. You're clumsy at first, your hands unsure, but no one minds. Everyone's smiling, especially the old man who starts drumming on an overturned clay pot with his palms. Food appears almost magically. Small bowls of sticky rice laced with honey and crushed pistachio, slices of melon chilled in clay pots, and goat cheese wrapped in fig leaves. You eat standing up, trading bites with Yusuf, laughing when a bee insists on sharing your melon dot at the edge of the celebration. A blind woman sits on a woven mat, running her fingers through a basket of dried pearls. She hums softly, naming them by touch. Small moon, storm tear, sun and fog. She holds one up, then gently offers it to you. You take it without speaking. It's irregular, shaped like a crescent and dappled with pink. Not flawless, not valuable perhaps, but beautiful in its honesty. She says it's for your leaving. Yusuf translates quietly. Whenever that day comes, the festival winds down by late afternoon. The tide rolls in slow, as if listening. Lanterns are lit as the sun dips low, not for light but for gratitude. A surprising truth comes as Yusuf points to a distant island just visible in the golden haze. That's where some say the best oysters hide, he tells you. But no one dives there. Why not, you ask? He shrugs. Too many stories. Some say the oysters there are cursed. Others say they hold only perfect pearls but cost something else. What kind of something? He taps his chest. Memories? You bring one up, you lose one. You smile at the superstition, but a shiver rides along your arm anyway. Back at the house, the family lounges in quiet tiredness. No one speaks much. Amina dozes with her head in her mother's lap. Yusuf fiddles with a string of worry beads. You sip sweet milk spiced with cinnamon and feel your body warm from the inside out. You hold your new pearl in your hand, thumb tracing its uneven edge. Outside, the last lanterns sway gently in the sea breeze, and inside you, something soft settles. Joy, without the need to explain it. Dawn arrives quietly, as if it knows you've had a full night of dreams and doesn't want to startle you. You blink awake to soft orange light seeping through the thatch above your mat, dappled with the shadows of palm fronds. The house is still, except for the faint sound of someone grinding cardamom in the kitchen, and a goat announcing itself with sleepy insistence. Today feels different, not because of anything in the air, exactly, but something in your chest, like your breath is shifting with the tide, pulled gently toward something, an ending maybe, or the edge of something beginning. Why us, UF greets you. In the courtyard with 2 bowls of warm porridge, sprinkled with raisins and a little clove. You snored, he says. Like a storm, Amina adds from the doorway, grinning. You feign shock, but your grin gives you away. After breakfast, Yusuf offers a task: no diving today. Just a trip to check the drying racks and fetch a few items from the storage hut near the shore. You accept, happy to move slowly. The drying racks are simple woven, reed shelves stretched across wooden frames, where oyster shells and bits of seaweed are left to cure under the sun. Some of the shells will be used for buttons or charms, others ground for pigment. Even the smallest fragments have a place. YUSUF points to one that looks like it's shaped like a tiny foot. This one, he says, holding it up, I'm keeping, for luck. Or to confuse birds, you offer. He laughs. Both. The storage hut is tucked against a low ridge where the wind gathers. Inside, it smells of dried salt and rope. You help him carry out a jar of preserved lemons, a bundle of old nets, and unexpectedly a wooden box you haven't seen before. This, Yusuf says, brushing off the sand, is the memory chest. He opens it slowly. Inside, scraps of old fabric, a rusted knife handle, a bit of embroidered cloth, a fragment of broken bowl, and at the very bottom a single dried pearl, yellowed with age but still gleaming faintly. We keep these, he says, when there's no one left to remember. You hold the pearl up to the light. It's oddly warm in your palm. It feels like something that deserves to be whispered to, not spoken about. Why us? UF gently closes the box and returns it to the shelf. As you walk back toward the village, he tells you about a man who once carved a pearl into the shape of a teardrop for a wife who never saw it. He said she'd feel it, even in the next world, Yusuf says. Did she, you ask? He shrugs. Maybe, but he kept diving after that. Said it helped him breathe. The afternoon passes in its own slow ceremony. You help stir a pot of lentils over a low fire. You string jasmine blossoms into a necklace for Amina's favorite goat who seems ambivalent about the fashion choice. You rest in the shade, eyes fluttering between open and closed, drifting in and out of thought. Just before sunset, Yusuf places a small wrapped bundle into your hands. Open it later, she says. When the time feels like silk, you don't know what that means, but you nod and thank her. Dinner is slow and full of laughter. There's a stew made with chickpeas and dried apricot, smoky eggplant with yogurt, and sweet date cakes rolled in coconut. Everyone eats with their hands, passing bread and wiping their fingers on shared cloths. You're included without fuss. Your hands as welcome as anyone's. After the meal, Yusuf's father pulls out a long, low drum and taps it gently. Amina sings, her voice soft at first, then stronger as others hum along. The tune is simple, looping, circular. It's not about anything, or maybe it's about everything. The sea, the sun, the way life moves and pauses. Then, without warning, Yusuf leans toward you. Tomorrow, he says, I think you'll be gone. You freeze. How do you know? He shrugs, eyes soft. It's in the wind. You don't speak. You simply nod. Because somewhere deep inside, you knew too. The fire crackles low. Stars prick the sky again. But tonight you don't count them. Instead, you lie back on your mat and pull the bundle from your sash. You open it inside. A small piece of folded cloth embroidered with a pearl-shaped spiral, and nestled in the center a round pale blue bead carved from a shell. It's smooth, cool, and smells faintly of smoke and rose. Beneath it, a line of thread loops through a message, stitched in tiny Arabic script. Every tide carries a return. You hold the bead against your chest and breathe. The sea murmurs softly just beyond the village. waiting. You wake before the light, before even the goats. The sky still wrapped in velvet. The stars remain, though dimmer now, and the breeze that brushes your cheek is cooler, calmer, like it knows you're preparing to leave. You don't wake anyone. Instead, you gather your sash, your pearl, the little carved shell bead, and the fish-shaped lantern you bought at the market. You roll up your mat with quiet fingers, your breath slow and deliberate. You're not sure how you know, but this is the way. It must be done. You step into the courtyard. It's empty, lit only by the low glow of a single oil lamp burning beneath the fig tree. The scent of last night's fire clings faintly to the air, along with the perfume of spent jasmine. You pause before the doorway, looking back once. The house is silent, peaceful. No need for words. Here everything that needed saying was already said in how they fed you, welcomed you, scrubbed your back with laurel leaf and laughter. Your bare feet make almost no sound as you walk through the sleepy village. A dog lifts its head, considers you, and lowers it again. A woman sweeping her steps in the dark gives you a knowing nod. No one stops you. No one asks where you're going. As you reach the edge of the beach, the sky begins to shift. Soft pink, then amber, just a hint of coming gold. The tide is low, the sand damp and smooth beneath your soles. The dhow is there, pulled onto the sand like it has always been waiting. The sail is furled, the ropes coil like sleeping snakes. A few gulls shriek faintly overhead, but even the sound hushed this morning. You walk to the water's edge. It laps gently at your ankles, the coolness curling up your legs and into your spine. You hold your pearl in one hand, the shell bead in the other. They seem to hum quietly together, as if exchanging a farewell. Yusuf appears just behind you, silent as driftwood. He stands beside you, hands behind his back, his hair tousled with sleep, no surprise on his face, just presence. You'll remember. He asks. You nod every tide. He presses something small into your hand, a knot of red thread, wrapped 3 times around a sliver of coral. For grounding, he says. If your world starts spinning too fast, you tuck it into your sash. Neither of you speaks again. The water creeps higher now, soaking the hem of your robe, and something shifts inside, outside, maybe both. The light around you deepens. The world wavers, just slightly, like heat off stone. The horizon pulses. Your breath catches and then you are gone. No flash, no sound, just a hush. The beach is empty again, save for Yusuf, who watches the waves for a long time. Then he turns, barefoot in the sand, and walks back toward the village. You arrive in your bed, soft sheets, cold air, a hum you didn't ask for, fridge heater, the rhythm of your ceiling fan trying to imitate waves. But your feet are sandy. Your robe still smells of rosewater and smoke. You sit up slowly, heart quiet and full. The shell bead rests on your pillow. The pearl, still warm, glows gently in your palm, and beside your bed, the fish lantern flickers. The room around you is quiet now. Let it stay that way. You're safe here, warm still, just returned from a slower world where time moved like tides and every breath felt earned. Your body, softened by the memory of sea and sun, settles deeper into rest. Muscles long released, thoughts like gentle waves folding back into the ocean. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, your breath slow and steady returns to its own rhythm, like a diver rising to the surface. Eyes closed, arms weightless. You imagine the sky over the Persian Gulf just before dawn, a stretch of velvet fading into coral, stars blinking out one by one like lanterns dimming for sleep. The feel of sand beneath you, cool and familiar, the smell of salt and cardamom, the hush of voices around a fire. You are still there. In a way, that pearl, that rhythm, that sense of slowness, they stayed with you. They are yours now, and the world you return to, it can wait a little longer. It will still be there, noisy and bright, but you carry something different now, something quieter. So let it all go. Let the tide take the rest. Sink gently into this moment. There is nothing more you need to do, no current to fight, no pearl to chase, just breath and rest.